questions with the candidates alternating between who answers first. The first candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, followed by a 1-minute response from the other candidate, and then around 1-minute rebuttal. By a coin flip, Doug will go first, and then each candidate will start with an opening statement. So Doug will go with his opening statement, and we'll do the questions.
All right, am I on?
No.
Am I on? Am I on?
No.
I'm going to bring up a few friends with me.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doug Chapin, and I'm a candidate for Congress in Minnesota's 6th District. I'm running for Congress. The microphone is not working. I'm running for Congress because our government isn't working. And our government isn't working because Congress isn't working. And Congress isn't working because our member of Congress, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, will not do his job. And so I'm running to replace him. I'm running to build an America, a Minnesota, and a 6th District that works. I want a 6th District where we have an economy that works for everyone. That means good jobs with fair pay. That means the cost of food and necessities and also things that people want are low enough that they have enough left over at the end of the day to save for a house, for their kids' education, or for a comfortable retirement. I want a healthcare system that works for everyone. The healthcare system right now is in the grip of for-profit insurance companies. We need to put doctors and patients back in charge of healthcare and make our nation the envy of the world in medical science. And finally, I want a Congress that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Congress should be the people's house. It should do the important work of raising taxes and spending money and declaring war and looking out for civil rights and not cede that power to an out-of-control White House. I'm ready to work for you in the community, I'm ready to work for you on the floor of Congress, and I'm ready to work for you around the country to make this district, this state, and this nation not just great, but better than great. I look forward to answering your questions today. Again, my name is Doug Chapin, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Check. Good? Okay. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anson Amberson. Thank you all for coming out to hear us appeal to you to support us in our bid for Congress. Also, it's very important for us to thank our DFL CD6 chair, Chantal Ashley, our vice chairs, Del Jenkins and Wayne Grimmer, as well as the rest of our CD6 Central Committee for organizing training events and several public forums in addition to today's debate. To give new candidates the opportunity to learn how to start running for office and to grow through that process. Thank you all. This is my first time running for a major political office, and I couldn't have gotten off to a good start without their support. By the way, I love this library. I come here at least once a week. I think libraries are an essential place for information and for, well, free information. You know, when people try to censor things, libraries are a great source of information. Yes, very good. Also, I wanted to start out and explain. I'm wearing a black ribbon pin in memory of Renee Nicole Good, and also I'm wearing an armband. And I would encourage you to do the same as you go door knocking. You know, even if you want to put Renee's name on it, as long as the family will not object to my doing so, I'm also dedicating the rest of my campaign to Renee's memory. In the back, you will see I have my personal copy of the Declaration of Independence, and these rights that sparked our revolution, the rights that we strive for, those are the rights that were violated when Renee was killed. It is clear to me that this ICE action throughout the state and around our nation, it's a sadistic abuse of power that's put forth by a malignant, narcissistic president. And I would appreciate your support to fight against him. Thank you.
Test. It works?
First question. As we approach the April 25 convention, do you pledge to abide by the DFL endorsement as voted upon by the delegates? Why is this commitment, or lack thereof, important for the party's success in November? And we'll start with Anson.
Yes, I will abide by the endorsement. When we started this whole process, we had 19 candidates interested in running against Tom Emmer. Right now, we are down to just the two of us. I would have liked to have seen, maybe even a couple more candidates yet at this point, because I do believe we need a choice in the endorsement process. But I'm glad that Doug is putting up with me. But I do realize that one of those candidates has now joined a third party. That may split our vote. It could be very close. I'm hoping it won't be close at all with all the abuses that Tom Emmer is supporting. And just on that note, I would like to say that when Angie Craig was confronting Tom Emmer on the floor of the House, she was raising a legitimate point about how this ICE stunt has resulted in the loss of life. And from what I heard from the witness on the floor, all Tom Emmer would say would be, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk. He repeated it over and over and over again. And it's time for Tom Emmer to take a walk out of Congress. Thank you.
How about that? No? Still no? There we go. Read the question again, please.
As we approach the April 25 convention, do you pledge to abide by the DFL endorsement as voted upon by the delegates? Why is this commitment, or lack thereof, important for the party's success in November?
Will I support the nominee? The answer is yes. Why do I think that's important? We are at a point in our time here in the country where we need to be fighting on the places where the fight needs to happen. We need not to be fighting amongst ourselves. We need to be confronting an incumbent who won't do his job, a party that will let the president do whatever he wants, and a president who thinks the only check on his power is his own morality and sense of mind. Years ago, Ben Franklin said, if we do not hang together, we shall all certainly hang separately. I look forward to us to hanging together, hopefully before April 25th, and taking the fight to Tom Emmer and the Republicans in 2026. Thank you.
The second question, and this will be for Doug to start with. ICE activity is causing fear and anger across Minnesota this week. What do you believe is happening at this moment? How have you reacted to these events, and what federal legislation fix will you pursue once elected?
Quite honestly, my friends, I think what's happening is that the White House has decided to declare war on blue states, and Minnesota is the first battlefield. We are the target of an invading army. We are under siege from an agency that is supposed to be enforcing immigration laws, but is being used as the White House's essentially secret police. And rather than protect us, rather than stand with us, our member of Congress is sitting safe in Washington behind a Fox News camera cheering the administration on. What am I going to do about it? When I get to Congress, we are going to slash ICE's budget. We are going to take away that money that they are using. We are going to make sure that the people that they hire are qualified and physically fit and actually qualified to hold a weapon and use a weapon in the field. We are going to ensure that ICE is enforcing a common sense immigration policy and not a witch hunt against people who do not look like the people in power. What have I done lately? I have been out protesting with many of you in Chaska and Otsego and in Waconia and elsewhere. I will be out there when I can. I have my whistle. I'm ready to stand at a moment's notice. I pointed out to some people today that I do have a 7-ton ambulance that may be useful at some point. I look forward to standing up against an overreach of federal power, and I look forward to getting to Washington to restrain that power and put the people back in charge instead of a White House bent on essentially subjugating people who do not agree with him. Thank you.
I sure can. ICE activity is causing fear and anger across Minnesota this week. What do you believe is happening at this moment? How have you reacted to these events, and what federal legislative fix will you pursue once elected?
Thank you. Wednesday, like many other people, I was in the DFL Daily Call to Action Zoom call when our chair, Richard Carlbaum, announced that a constitutional observer had been shot. At that point, I didn't know that she had died. I went right after that Zoom call to see what stream I could follow and try to put together the pieces. For the next 48 hours, I was pursuing as many details about the incident as I could. And I'm not waiting until I get into Congress to act. I took action immediately. I listened to the governor's statement, and I was not satisfied with the governor's statement. I understand his concern that if there's violence, the president is looking for any excuse to send the National Guard in, the federalized National Guard, to put down blue states. But we need a solution. I reached out to the governor, I reached out to the attorney general, I reached out to the senators, I also reached out to Eric and Dan, my representatives, and DFL leadership. Thank you.
Third question goes to Anson first. What specific experience or skills do you possess that your opponent does not, making you the best fit to represent CD6? Which House committees would you seek to serve on to maximize your impact?
All right. So first thing is, we deserve to have a representative from the 6th Congressional District who is a person who actually lives in the district. I am the only two of us candidates who has lived and worked in this district for 21 years. During that time, I have served in many different roles as a short call substitute teacher, a children's ministry coordinator. All these details you can see in my brochure on the table. I've also worked as a pharmacy technician, a patient care extender in the trauma center, and most recently I worked as a flight attendant with the global airline. But I left my American dream to become an airline transport pilot to run for this seat, because this administration is constantly increasing the risk that we face, increasing the risk that I was facing in aviation, and it's now increasing the risk that we're facing on the streets with these ICE actions. So I've also worked on administrative boards for churches, and also I've been a member of the DFL party since 2018, that midterm election after Trump was first elected. I've been a precinct chair in SD 14, and I actually went to the state convention for the first time in 2024. I also went to the DNC in Chicago that same year. It's been a wonderful experience. I have to admit, I am a little rough around the edges because this is a career transition for me, but I do meet all of the minimum criteria for becoming a representative. It is not a requirement that someone be an attorney to run for Congress. However, I mean, legal experience is good, but I have experience working with wildlife, working in education, standing up for the environment, and I would appreciate your support. And all the caucuses I would participate in would support those efforts. Thank you.
Doug, your turn.
Is that on?
No.
No. I give up. All right. So first of all, I'm glad to hear Anson say that he has experience working with wildlife. I don't have that. That probably would be helpful in working with the Republican caucus. I, on the other hand, I am a policy wonk. I spent 9 years studying politics, government, and the law at Princeton, Harvard, and Georgetown. I've spent almost 40 years of my life improving elections, shaping policy, and trying to make America be what it should be. I have been an educator. I am a lawyer, although I'm in recovery. And I believe that I am ready to hit the ground on day one. I realize that phrase has lost a little bit of its sting, but I'm ready to go. I don't need on-the-job training. I am not rough around the edges. I'm ready to step into the job the minute I'm elected and do the work that needs to be done for all of you. And while I have the opportunity, I'm going to tell you what I think a member of Congress should do. Number one, they should legislate. They should do the business of making laws. Number two, they should represent you in the community through constituent service. And number three, they should act like sort of a chamber of commerce, boosting your district around the country with public and private sector players to bring jobs to our communities, to put somebody back in that Electrolux factory, to put those green energy companies back online, to look out for us every day, not just on the floor of the Capitol, not just in Minnesota, but around the country. What committees would I like to be on? Full disclosure, I'm an election geek longstanding. I would love to have a seat on the election subcommittee. That would be fun for a wonk like me. I would like to be on something like Ways and Means. I would like to think about how we fund Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP and other things. And I would very much like to be on the Agricultural Committee to help our family farmers across the 6th District access markets, repair their own vehicles, and do the work they need to do to raise our food safely and securely. Thank you.
The last question in this set. Minnesotans are struggling with the cost of housing, groceries, and energy. What are your specific federal policy ideas to lower the cost of living for families in this district? And Doug, we'll start with you.
Housing, food, and energy. Yes? Obviously, there's a lot the federal government can do. Quite honestly, I think in many ways what the federal government can do is get out of the way. I think the tariffs that we have seen have certainly driven up the cost of housing. Housing is already unaffordable. Ask anyone under 40. You've got people who are renting not because they want to, but because they can't afford to buy. We need to find a way to encourage land use and building incentives and what have you to build affordable housing so that people at every age, at every stage of their life have access to a home of their own. Food, quite honestly, we need to stop messing with our agricultural markets. We need to stop driving farmers out of business and driving up prices just so the White House can collect money from other countries that ultimately ends up coming out of our pockets. So one of the things I will do as your member of Congress is I will fight like hell to make sure that it's Congress and not the White House that decides what tariffs are put on consumers across the country. And finally, on energy, I think we need to look for alternatives to the power sources we have always used. Full disclosure, I'm Doug Chapin Jr. Doug Chapin Sr. was a nuclear engineer. I believe in nuclear power as a source of green energy. I believe that the nuclear plant in Monticello is important to this state and its future. But I also believe in the solar farms and the wind farms and the other green energy projects that are springing up around the 6th District, only to be squashed by a White House that seems to be in love with coal. There are lots of things we can do in Washington to bring down prices for working families across the district. But number one is to get a meddling White House and an out-of-control majority out of their way. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I definitely agree with Doug. The tariffs that are in place right now, they're shooting us all in the foot. You know, working in the airline industry.
We can't hear you.
So yes, so the tariffs, you can hear me, great.
Yes.
The tariffs that were inflicted upon us, inflicted on the other nations that we trade with are also inflicted on us. You know, global trade is what keeps us all going. We can't just have one farmer trading with himself, him or herself. That farmer needs to be able to trade goods in order to survive. The farmers don't want bailouts, they want trade. The tariffs have cut off the soybean trade with China. Granted, China is slowly, supposedly putting in more orders, but it's really affecting farmers. In the airline industry, the tariffs affected products we were providing on the plane. And I was worried about products that were being supplied for maintenance. Was that decreasing our safety in the aircraft? I assume all of you, if you board an airplane, you want that plane to arrive safely. So without getting bogged down too much in this, energy, we definitely need energy of the future. We don't need to produce energy with coal as our primary source of energy. We do need nuclear, but we also need new ways of doing nuclear. There are ways of doing nuclear that are safer. We need to update the current plants. We do need solar, we need wind. We also need options for people to be more efficient with their energy at home, like geothermal. The food prices, that's certainly tied in with the tariffs in agriculture. And, and monitoring, say, the avian flu, so it doesn't cause the price of eggs to go up. Thank you.
Before we move on with the next round here, we're going to take a couple seconds and see if we can get the sound tuned up a little bit for the candidates. So please be patient here while we do that. We're going to do a little different format here for a couple questions. It's going to be a candidate-to-candidate question. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask his opponent a question. They'll be followed by a 2-minute response from the candidate and then a rebuttal if needed. And I think we're going to start with Anson. The question is, regarding a specific issue-based answer your opponent has given in the past months, is there one of those answers that gives you pause?
Yes. When I get to office in Congress, my first objective is to impeach the president and to convince members of Congress to convict the president. Once we get him out of the way, we'll need to start mending our nation because Congress is the House and the Senate are currently broken. I know Doug Chapin has said that he wants to use Robert's rules as a cudgel against the opposition. We need to start fostering trust between the parties. Thank you.
Yes? Okay, very good. Thank you. Yeah, I 100% agree that we need to foster trust, and that would be ideal. But I'll be honest with you, my friends, you can't shake hands with somebody who's slapping you. And that's where we are in Congress right now. And so to the extent that we have to, the extent that we need to find a way to do the right way what Republicans have been doing the wrong way in Washington, to use the powers of the majority, to use the rules, to use Robert's Rules of Order, to control the debate, and to drive policy in a direction it needs to go. So yes, where we can find bipartisan support, like we did on ACA premium subsidies, like we did in the Senate on military action in Venezuela, we should absolutely do that. But we should not seek compromise for compromise's sake. You cannot negotiate with somebody who wants you effectively dead. And when I get to Washington, I will be willing to trust, but that trust will have to be earned. Thank you.
Next turn to ask a question.
Same topic?
Is there an answer that's been given in the past few months that gives you pause?
Yeah, I think at the St. Cloud candidate forum, both the issue of reproductive rights and LGBTQ came up. And I remember being pretty forceful in my support for both of you, both of those. I didn't sense that your support was as forceful. Where exactly do you stand on both reproductive rights for women and LGBTQ rights across the district and across the nation?
I definitely stand for protecting access to abortion. And I definitely stand on the civil rights for the LGBTQ plus community. and Two-Spirit, by the way. What I was trying to express during that time was that there's also a nuance to both of those things. When it comes to getting a national standard for abortion rights, we need to engage the other party, and one of their key points is finding out when there's a constitutional protection for life. I don't think many of us, I mean, there's a full range of people, where people stand for where life begins and what amount of life deserves respect. From the insects and the animals to only people. And then there are some people who believe life begins at conception. There are some people who believe life begins at viability. And we need to have a national standard so there's no question from one state to the next what procedures are legal and what procedures are not legal. So that was what I was trying to get at the St. Cloud Forum, was we need to engage, we need to do so in a bipartisan way to come up with a solid standard that will still allow access to abortion when appropriate. As I was going to say, one point on that, I don't know if many people here would support an abortion 5 minutes before somebody's supposed to deliver. The reason why I'm saying that is simply as an example. I respect life, but I also respect the need for access to abortion. If you don't like that, if you're uncomfortable with that, I'm sorry, but I believe in both. When it comes to LGBTQ rights, we live in a nation where it's okay to have different views.
Next section. These questions the candidates will get 1 minute to answer, and these have been submitted by the audience in advance online. Start with Anson. What specific ideas do you have to fix the healthcare system, and how will you protect Medicare and Medicaid from future cuts?
To fix the healthcare system, one of the problems I see with the healthcare system is that many people can't afford their care. I know that there have been changes with the Affordable Health Care Act, but when I was working as a pharmacy technician, I saw people who were questioning whether or not they could take their insulin dose, if they had to ration their insulin, if they have to reuse their needles. Once the Affordable Care Act was in place, those same people were able to use their medications consistently. Some people who don't have access to health care come to the emergency room as their preventative care, and that is not an effective way to get health care. Also, it's much more expensive to provide for that care. And if they can't pay for it, we end up covering it anyway. So we need to provide affordable health care. We need to protect that. We also need to protect Medicare in the budget. I will vote for measures that protect that. Thank you.
Same question.
Oh, same question, okay. How would I fix healthcare? Clearly what's going on right now is not working. I am very curious about and want to learn more about Medicare for all. And failing that, I think we at least have to really explore the public option that was abandoned during ACA negotiations in the past. But whatever we do, we have to break the grip of insurance companies on healthcare in this country. As for Medicare and Medicaid, what we need to do, number one, is reverse these obscene tax cuts that were given to billionaires in the big ugly bill. And once we've done that, I think we also need to make sure that more money is going into the fund by raising the cap on Social Security taxes. Elon Musk pays his Social Security tax in milliseconds every year. Some of us never do. We have to raise the cap so that more money is going into the budget, so more of it is available for us to keep the promises to people who need health care and housing and food across the country. So count me all in on bold ideas. Thank you.
Next question. When is military force justified, and what principles should guide those decisions? Additionally, what is the biggest national security threat facing the U.S. today?
Wow, and I have 1 minute? I'm afraid I'm going to have to be a moderate on military force. I just don't know. I think it depends. I think that where there's a clear national interest, where there's an opportunity to address that interest by either promoting a friend or eliminating a threat, I think we definitely have to do that. Second question was?
The biggest threat today.
I think the biggest threat today is the rise of autocracy and the threat of dividing the world into big powers again. Whether or not it's actually been agreed to, it feels an awful lot like the president and Mr. Putin and China and others have essentially decided to divvy up the world in some kind of frightening game of risk and leave us all on the outside looking in. I will tell you, I minored in Russian studies in college. I went to what was the Soviet Union in 1984. Russia is not our friend, and anyone who acts like Russia is not our friend. We need to fight that now and going forward.
Can you restate the question once more?
I sure can. When is military force justified, and what principles should guide those decisions? Additionally, what is the biggest national security threat facing the U.S. today?
All right. Last night I watched Paul Wellstone's maiden speech from 1991, 35 years ago today. He was protesting the war, the imminent war in Iraq. He was one of the few who, was he the only or one of the few? I can't remember exactly if he was the only one voting against it. But at any rate, I basically am a pacifist. However, I do understand that there are times in history when military intervention is needed. We as a nation, we should not be just swinging our own weight around the globe. We should be working with allies when military intervention is necessary. I believe that military intervention may be required in Ukraine. We should not be giving Russia a green pass to just continue to mugging that state. Cyber threats are one of the primary threats to our nation. Thank you.
Hang on to the microphone there. How will you work to make Washington less partisan and restore the trust, the public's trust in our government institutions?
Less partisan. Check. Okay. You can all hear me? Yeah. Sounds good. No? Not in the back?
Can you hear it now?
Check. Can you hear me now?
No. Worse quality. It's the other mic.
It's muffled.
All right. You can hear me well? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for the feedback. So, first of all, we need to break the president's grip on the House and the Senate. He needs to be out of office. As long as he is controlling people like a mafia don, things are not going to work. Once he's out of the office, then I think we need to engage people from the beginning. When it comes to budget, this is one of the things that really gets me. We need a budget, not these continuing resolutions from month to month. The threat of government shutdown. We need to engage with both parties in the formation of that budget from the very beginning. And I think that's the best way to start, best way to build trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the way that we build bipartisanship in Washington is to get the other side to stop slapping us. And the way you do that is to make them respect us and actually stand up for the things that we believe in and fight for what we believe in and not cave because it's politically expedient. When I was growing up, my father was not a real strict disciplinarian, but he was very good at showing me the right way to do things. And he had a saying that I use even today with my kids. He was from Atlanta, and he would say, I can make you do the right thing, or I will make you wish that you had. That is what we are going to do in Washington. If Republicans want to come to the table and actually engage on issues that matter, then we will engage. But if they're going to stay in the back and lob bombs and post memes and hurl obscene rhetoric, then we are going to muscle up, elbows up, and push our priorities through like Minnesota did 4 years ago, and like we will do when we elect a majority in 2026. Thank you.
Being into the microphone. How will you balance the needs of our agricultural economy with the urgent need for federal climate and water resource policies?
That's interesting. This kind of question is something that I feel like we encounter a lot. I feel like this is, because of the way the debate has emerged, it's become this false choice. I think we can actually promote agriculture and still protect the environment. There is tons of research out there about sustainable practices, about farm equipment that uses environmentally friendly fuel. We have the opportunity to make that balance. We have the opportunity to do the right thing. We just haven't walked through that door. We need to invest in research, we need to invest in good ideas, and we need to stop clinging to an agrarian market of the 1950s as our model, and think about how we both feed our families but protect our future in the environment. It sounds like an overpromise by a politician, but if we work hard enough, very often, we really can have both. Two things can be true.
All right, so one of the things I saw was that, that's a collaborative effort between agriculture and energy is the use of planting a winter crop to turn into an alternative fuel for airlines. I think that's a very important aspect of reducing our carbon footprint in the world. And it also helps the farmers out. One of the problems, I went to Benton County where I live, I went to the Soil and Water Conservation District office, and I was talking with one of the agents there, and she said that there's a mismatch between a lot of the standards at the state level and at the federal level, so that the farmers need to figure out, well, which of these standards is most restrictive that I need to adhere to, and then they have to apply to that. So we need to standardize the standards as much as we can. But also, we need to collaborate with farmers when making legislation. Thank you.
Now the last portion of our program. These are questions that have been submitted from the public directed at a specific candidate. Each candidate has 2 questions they're going to get. First one to Doug. As an expert in election law, how would you address federal efforts to challenge local election certifications or voter registration rolls? And you have 1 minute for an answer.
I would do it by applying the rules as they currently stand. State and local governments have power of elections in this country. The federal government manages federal elections, but nothing else. Quite simply, I would do what Secretary Simon has done and what other secretaries of state across the country have done. Quite simply, I would give Washington the finger. Watch your own bobber. I've worked with state and local election officials for almost 40 years. And no matter what their party they're from, where they live, whatever their experience is, they are fanatically committed to a fair and transparent and representative vote. And for Washington, no matter who's sitting in the White House, to interfere with that for some kind of political gain is an anathema to me. And I will, as my kids like to say, throw hands if I have to. But basically, I think the policy on federal interference in state and local election administration is buzz off.
This is a question for Anson. Given your background, how would you address the specific crisis of rural hospital closures and the loss of maternity wards in greater Minnesota?
So the loss of rural hospitals is awful for those communities. If they have an emergency and they don't have access to that hospital, they've got to travel so much farther. It puts so many more lives at risk. If there's a way to provide subsidies for those hospitals, I think that would be great. One way maybe to fund that would be to have a flat tax that ensures that the richer people pay the same percentage as the poorer people. I think that's an honest way of getting funds for our government's budget. What was the last part of that question?
Maternity wards in Greater Minnesota.
Yeah. If we have incentives for people to pay off their medical school debt for serving in those areas, that's one thing that they've done in Duluth before for serving the Native American populations. That might be a good way of incentivizing obstetric care in those areas. Thank you.
Just want to give him another one since he's got the mic.
We can do that. We're going to keep the microphone in the same spot. Another one for Anson. How will you leverage your experience as a precinct chair to build the grassroots infrastructure needed to defeat a well-funded incumbent like Tom Emmer?
Well, getting publicity out is important. From my experience so far in this campaign is that when I'm at the door meeting and speaking with people, when it's 20 degrees or something, they appreciate my grit for being out there, and they respond quite positively to my message. However, I need to develop a social media presence, and it's one thing I've been hanging back on until I got my campaign fund started. I was able to open my campaign fund a little over 2 weeks ago. So now that I have that in place, I'm going to be trying to see if I can get some volunteers on board to help me set up my social media presence. My son gets almost all of his news on TikTok. Some of it's, of course, slanted and biased, but I need to get into that same atmosphere in order to put forth my message. It's an easy way to reach people in our district. Thank you.
Doug, how does your legal experience specifically help you navigate the process of clawing back federal tax dollars for infrastructure projects in CD6?
Woof. First of all, Anson, have your son check me out. Doug Chapin for Congress on TikTok. I think, like any law, I think that you have to read in, you have to look and see where the opportunities are for funding, what that funding can be used for. Very often you look for things like the word reasonable or as necessary. Lawyers love those words because that means we can then fight about what is reasonable and what is necessary. I think in some ways you have to work backward from the need through the statute to the bill to the proposal. You have to figure out what the money will do and then figure out where the money will come from, both going out and coming in to the coffers. Very often the law is kind of the icing on the cake of the policy proposal. But making sure that that icing doesn't interfere with the direction that you're trying to drive the money is really important. If I learned nothing else in law school, it's that you can do anything with the right law.
It's time for closing statements, and I'll remind the group that our candidates have agreed to stick around for a while. If you've got individual questions you want to ask them. So if there's something that wasn't asked today that is on your mind, I'm sure they'll be happy to provide you with some answers. For closing statements, each candidate will have 2 minutes to wrap it up, and we'll start with Doug.
Thank you very much, Mike. I want to thank, round of applause for Mike. Thank you very much. I started this journey really on Inauguration Day in 2025 when the President pardoned the January 6 rioters. And that was the first time that I said to myself, something's got to change. And then as the administration moved forward, I started to explore, I started having conversations with people like Jim Parsons and his fellow Senate district chairs across the district. Back then, there were still almost 600 days until Election Day. For over 300 days, I have traveled the district. I have met with Senate district committees. I have met with voters. I have gone to parades. I have gone to fairs. I have gone to rallies. I have gone to pride festivals. I think Stephanie and I gave out 5,000 Freezy Pops this summer. I have established a social media presence. I have registered as a candidate with the Federal Election Commission. I have raised over $100,000, including some of my own money, to make sure that this campaign works. I am doing the work to retire somebody who is not doing the work in Washington. And so I ask you to join me in doing the work. It's really easy to say that you're a candidate. It's much harder to actually do the work. Putting your name on the sign is just the beginning of the process. And I want to say something in response to something that Anson said earlier. He's mentioned several times that I'm a newcomer to this district, and I plead absolutely guilty. I moved to Minnesota in 2022 after my wife died. We'd always planned to retire here. When I decided to run for Congress, I looked for the race where I could make the most impact and make the biggest difference. I just want to point out that while I haven't lived here this long, I am running against Tom Emmer at the first possible opportunity to do so. And if you've waited for 12 years to do that, I want to know, where the hell have you been?
The key portion of my campaign is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as indicated in our foundational documents. And that's why I have that Declaration of Independence in the back. This week, we are in a dark time, and in closing, I just wanted to read some lyrics to you that can give us some consolation and solace at this time. The song is How Can I Keep From Singing? It was sung by Enya and written by the late Nicky Ryan and his wife, Roma Ryan. My life goes on in endless song. Above earth's lamentations, I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear its music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? While though the tempest loudly roars, I hear the truth, it liveth. And though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble in their fear and hear their death knell ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? In prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? During the remainder of this election cycle, please keep the name Renee Nicole Good on your lips and in your heart. Moreover, whether you vote for me, Anson Amberson, or Doug Chapin, when you enter the voting booth, may the breath of revolution be in your lungs as you say, this vote is for Renee. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending this morning, and thanks to Doug and to Anson for their lively discussion and detailed answers to your questions. Keep showing up. Precinct caucus is the next step. Thanks, everybody.